Lina, well, I'll start off by what she's given me about her background, her educational background. She's originally from Edmonton, and she went to U of A, and she studied at the university there. She did a Bachelor of Science. She had honors in her pharmacology, and she also obtained a PhD in transplant immunology, and I did not know that. That was new to me. Then she went on to become a medical doctor.
Wow.
Then she went on to do a family medicine residency in Red Deer, and she's worked in a variety of clinics in Alberta and Ontario. Lina's areas of special interest are preventative health, mental health, and chronic pain. I met Lina a few years ago, and over that time period, and we've talked about it over the years about the support group, that we have here, and she is here to talk about a project that she has created. She has a partner, Aisha, and she'll explain that, but she's here to talk about this, I love it, this website and this program that they're offering now. So please welcome Lina.
Well, thank you very much for inviting me, and yeah, it's a big turnout. I don't think I haven't done much public speaking since I finished my graduate school. Oh, sorry. And so, yeah, thanks very much for coming out. And thanks, Sylvia, for the lovely introduction. So I'm here. I've been asked to talk about the nonprofit that we've started. And by we, I mean Aisha, Lakani, and myself. Aisha's a lawyer, and we met at a chronic pain meetup. So my friends have changed since since getting chronic pain, but always meeting new ones and always happy to. And so it's called Virtual Counseling for Chronic Pain. And aside from Sylvia's introduction, I thought just tell you a bit more about myself. I'm a family physician, as Sylvia had said, and I'm also a chronic pain patient. So, and I'm a caregiver for someone with chronic pain, and that would be my husband. I've been in 3 car accidents in a 5-year span. None were my fault. 2, I wasn't even driving. And my husband was with me in the first one. And so, yeah, from that one, we both unfortunately got chronic pain, and had to give up our careers. But from that, actually, we went on and got a dog, Jax. And so now I'm a proud fur mama. And Jax is certainly a lot of who I am right now. And he has, I think, taught me a lot more than I think I've learned in my, somebody was saying, 27 years of education.
Wow.
So I like to bring him up, plus he's really cute. And so, as I had mentioned, my journey, I was in 3 car accidents. I did the usual physical rehabilitation, the physiotherapy, tried all the medications, tried the yoga, tried the Pilates, did the counseling. I've been through 2 chronic pain programs. The first one is what I call the satellite program that ran through the Foothills PCN. So that's the group of family physicians out in the north, and they put together a pain program for that area, and then they kind of tagged along with the main program, which is running out of Richmond Road. And if they had any problems, they'd get advice from them. So I started with that program. I went through all this stuff, and I graduated, and then I entered the main program. Then I developed pelvic pain, and of course, I found that they had obviously, they could afford to have more sessions in that we didn't have, in the satellite program, we didn't have anything about dietary or much about sleep. It was at the beginning of that. It was in its infancy, so they really only had kind of the pharmacist, the occupational therapist, and then the physiotherapist. But I've heard they've grown since then. But the main program, basically, I don't know how many of you have attended there, but they've got lots of offerings. And from there, those formal programs have a lot of great, professionals that will help you deal with your pain and try to, adapt and such. But I found that I was really lacking kind of, I don't want to say camaraderie, but kind of someone who kind of knew where I was coming from. And so I began searching for support groups. Back then, it was actually really hard to find. Now it's not so hard, but I know it took me, I think, about 5 Google searches, and this was going into page 14, before I found a little link on one website that had an email for LEAPS, which is lending emotional support and emotional acceptance. I always forget what they mean, but what they stand for. But essentially, it's a group of graduates from the main chronic pain program, and so they're there. They get together about twice a month, and they kind of meet and kind of support one another, remind one another of kind of the skills that they learn through the pain program. So when I finally found them, I thought, wow, yeah, this is great. And then it was hard because, at the time, actually, when I first found them, they were meeting on Thursday afternoons. And I was still working at the time, and I thought, well, I can't not go to work and go to this for an hour, and so I waited, and finally they changed their meet time to Mondays, which I had started to take off, and I thought, great, now I can go. But I thought, wow, that's kind of a big limitation, and I wondered why they didn't have it, in the evenings and such, but I thought, well, at least they were there and available if you could actually make it to that group. Then I found another support group through the Meetup app, and they meet on Saturdays in a restaurant. Actually, that's where I met Sylvia. and again, they kind of do the same thing. They get together, support one another, and they do also a lot of presentations and education and stuff. But it's very much also about support. And what I had noticed when I actually got there was they were they had connected with someone who was participating from home. And I thought, that is brilliant. I love it. That is awesome. Why didn't I think of that? And I thought, that's the way to go, really. And it's so easy now, So yeah, I think, each step, I think we always learn something, and for sure I've learned a lot through going through all of this. Being a family doctor, I also saw a lot of people coming in with chronic pain, so I kind of had a bit of understanding before I had chronic pain myself, but certainly I think it's made me a better physician, and I think person, just because I feel a lot more empathy for people. But I also had the opportunity to go and do a number of programs to learn how to deal with chronic pain, not only for myself, but for patients. And so I did the course run through the University of Calgary. It's called Chronic Pain Management for Family Physicians. And in the first couple of years when I was searching for kind of the cure to my pain, I had come across a website for an anesthetist in Toronto who was running the chronic pain program there, and she was, and her program was all about mindfulness. And she was running a course, and then she had a course for family physicians to learn about mindfulness and to, teach it to their patients. And I said, well, is there anyone in Alberta that teaches it? And she said, not at the moment. And I said, okay. A couple of years later, I went back and I said, okay, that's it. I'm going to bite the bullet and I'll just fly to Toronto and do the course there. And I'm very thankful that I was able to do that, because it is definitely, it's not for everyone. I mean, you'll come across people who will, talk about yoga and Pilates as being able to, help everything. But I think when you try enough things, and meet enough people, you'll come to understand that not everything works for everybody. And you can just try it. If it works, great. If it doesn't, don't let that stop you from trying something else. Okay. So I'll just talk a bit about the impact of chronic pain on our lives and the impact of our lives on our chronic pain. And so the first, can you read it that one? Are we able to dim the fonts up there? A little bit better. So the thing that I think the medical community really focuses on is the physical impact. So they talk about what happens to our bodies and what we can do about it. So we get the decreased function, ability to do things, of course poor sleep, and all of that makes us just really tired all the time. And they've also thankfully acknowledged the mental, emotional part of chronic pain, which is the depression, the anger, the guilt, anxiety, stress, and shame. What they are just slowly really, I think, coming to realize and to really learn about, and I think it's because a lot of the professionals themselves don't have chronic pain, they don't experience it, they don't know the impact that it has, and those that do don't talk about it as much or have difficulty talking about it or identifying it, really. And that's the social aspect. And because it disrupts relationships. And we can lose friends. We can make lots of friends, but we also lose a lot of friends. And that's why I say, through my own journey, my friends have changed. Because some I don't connect with anymore because the dynamics have changed. And it's something that you have to kind of learn to accept. Because it takes two to both parties to kind of sustain a relationship. Also, if they, I think, are just starting to realize that, we also need support outside of, what they're giving us from the rehabilitation programs and the counseling and such. Because once people leave, the chronic pain center, they go home and then they're inundated with all the things they need to do and all the stresses, and who are they going to call? Well, chronic pain center is Monday to Friday, 9 to 4 o'clock. 4 o'clock is their evening session, right? So it's not the most practical. I can understand why they have it that way. They need to have it that way, but it doesn't quite work as well as I think it should. And so then that results in a lot of people becoming socially isolated. And I really saw that with my husband. He had to give up his practice because he couldn't, he is a dentist, and he ended up getting thoracic outlet syndrome, which means basically you can't, your arms can't be higher than by your side. So can't work if he can't do this, then he can't work. And so a lot of his friends, people that he knew, he hung around with, was from work. And so, when he had to give that up, there were those that still do come around, and I'm extremely grateful for them. But, then you start seeing the ones that don't, and you realize, well, you know, you think why. Again, it's a two-way situation. He doesn't reach out, and then they will, you know, and then sometimes they reach out a bit, and then he doesn't kind of reach back, and then it kind of falls to the wayside. So it happens really quickly, and quicker than you might expect. The other impact that I think isn't acknowledged as much, but certainly by the medical community, is the financial impact. So thankfully, within the chronic pain program, you know, the physiotherapists that you would see, the occupational therapists that you work with, the nurses, and the counselors, they're all covered under that program. But once you leave the chronic pain program, then you're kind of on your own. And and those are not covered by Alberta Health. And so there you have added increased expenses. And if you're not able to work as much as you used to, then you are suffering a loss of income. So that is really something that, and that again causes stress, can increase pain. So it's really just a vicious cycle overall. So we started Chronic Pain Support and Connections because we felt that the lives that have been impacted by chronic pain need to be supported. And so for the person with chronic pain, just someone to talk to, but also for their friends and family, and maybe even co-workers if they're interested enough, to kind of, you know, if they have questions or if they're having trouble and are wanting some guidance in terms of, you know, what can be done to better support each other, not just, you know, because it's not just one life that's been affected, it's many. And we hope to do that by, you know, like I said, fostering understanding, improving communication, so everybody can cope better with the situation. And how we're going to try to do this is through scheduled and secured video conferencing. So that's kind of where I learned from that meetup. I thought, well, you know, instead of having people drive, fight through traffic, and have to account for, you know, time in traffic and then back again, wouldn't it be better just to be able to do it in a virtual way? And so basically you would, whoever would want to get support would email us, and a time would be set up, and we'd send a link that you basically just click on, and it will take you to the app, or if you have a phone, or if you're just using a web browser, it'll just open up in the web browser. So really it's, and then you just click on, and then you just click on the door, and then you can enter. So it's really, it's not complicated.
Excuse me. Is it video so you can see each
Yes,
other?
yes.
And some, like this PC, for example, doesn't have a camera, which is why I have this thing on here. So can people who don't have a camera just sort of
Yeah, you can just
listen in
do
and
audio
phone in?
as well. Yeah, yeah. I tend to like to include the video just because it's nice just to know who you're talking to, and it's also kind of better in terms of kind of judging. I don't know. People, I think, yeah, exactly. It's visual, right? Yeah. So, but I mean, if there are people who prefer not to, then certainly it's not mandatory. It's just, I think, an added feature that I think is nice. And so the support can be just like one-on-one, or it can be in a group. So right now it can be up to 4 people, and it's just all within the same. It's in the same room, and you'd basically all see one another. And so Other thing we were hoping also to do with this nonprofit was to just build a community. So hopefully with more people participating, then you can get to know one another and then share our wisdom and our knowledge, and just build connections and stay connected, which I think is one of the more important things. Now, in terms of the financial aspect, Aisha, who is my partner, she, this part is the part that was her passion, and that was, helping people really deal with the financial hit of having chronic pain. And so not only do you have the loss of income, but the increased expenses. And so having been through it herself, she felt that, she would like to, if people are in need of advice or guidance in terms of what there may be available for them. She's kind of already done a lot of that research, and so the other half of the support is not just the counseling with the social relationships, but with the, if you were needing help with trying to find kind of more, I wouldn't say income, but more social assistance, and what the programs are available. And in dealing with the increased expenses, right now we have what she calls the insurance project. So right now we're trying to set up, we're approaching a number of insurance companies to try to get kind of a reduced or better rate for extended health coverage. So stuff like medications, but also for physiotherapy, chiropractor, massage, medical devices and stuff like that. So it's definitely an uphill battle because, of course, insurance companies are a business. And I got a feeling that the first few just kind of looked at us thinking, are you crazy? Why would we do that? But we're not going to give up, and we're going to try to be creative in our approach, and I think we're bound to find something that will hopefully work. And so this is our website. It's a Wix site because it's free, but it's Help Chronic Pain, and we'll get a more official site once we, I think, get rolling, but it really didn't turn out that well. It looks better, way better on my screen.
Actually, yeah, just go and ask, could we get a copy of that so I can email it to the people that are here so they can go through what these slides were saying?
Oh, sure, yeah. Actually, I had emailed it to Linda already, but when we were trying to figure this out.
I can forward it to you right now.
Yeah, that's what Wade was asking.
Yeah.
Could we
Okay.
get a copy?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And so that's their email. And because chronic pain can be very isolating.
So on that last slide, you said the insurance project, that's for the group to convene at a specific spot to need insurance? Or what was the insurance project?
The insurance project, we're just trying to find extended health coverage for people because right now, if you try to apply for extended health coverage, there's lots of limitations, and there's waiting times and such. And so we're trying to put something together that it's affordable and that would be suitable for us. But yeah, it's hard.
When I went off work, I was management exempt, and I thought, now I'm going to have to pay for my own insurance. And I always sometimes wonder that attitude. They denied me. They said you had too many things, too many injuries, too many things wrong. And so I can't even get it. So this would help people like me.
The only thing that we've been able to find right now is that Alberta Blue Cross has a non-group group, but it's just for medications. And it would probably be most helpful for people who've exceeded or have met their lifetime limits to whatever plan they're on already. And so that would help top them over. I didn't include it here, but it is on the website, the information about that plan. And then you can, with that plan, if you only have so much income, you can also, it would also be subsidized depending on what your income was. And that's both as a family and as individual. And so again, it's on the website, but I didn't include it in this.
Along that line, I got an email recently because I got denied, so I have that non-group that you're talking about. And I got a phone call and an email that they have a new thing called Blue Assured Individual Health Plan. So I'll read the rest of the email later. But I thought it might be relevant. I can even send it to you.
Yeah,
It might just give you more ideas of what they have.
Lena, are people for your website restricted to like Alberta, or can it be anybody
No.
from anywhere?
No, that's the beauty of it being virtual, is that you can pretty much be anywhere. And that's actually one of the frequently asked questions is, do I need to be in Alberta or in a certain location? And because it's virtual, you can be anywhere, and you can be traveling and feel like, okay, I need to talk to somebody, then you can connect.
So as long as you have a good internet connection.
Yep.
And the ability to connect.
Yes.
On the website for this group that you're going with Sylvia, you can attend by Skype or whatever. You can go to those meetings, but you have to pay.
No, everything is free. That's the other thing I was actually forgot to say. That's the main important. Again, another frequently asked question. But yeah, everything is free. There's no cost whatsoever other than having an internet connection. But if you went to a Starbucks or a Tim Hortons, it's free Wi-Fi. So.
Or a library.
Or a library, exactly. Yeah, you just need basically a phone, tablet, computer. I don't know, and I guess if in the libraries do they have computer terminals and stuff? So I mean, yeah, it could be all. You don't even need any of those. You just need access to it. But yeah, there's no fee, and we've been.
I had a question.
Oh yeah.
So you said group sessions up to 4 people.
Yeah.
And if you wanted to be part of a group session, but you're just sort of by yourself, so it would be, do you have a way to sort of gather 4 people, say, who have similar conditions or whatever, and book them all together? See what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone would, anything's possible, really, right? It really depends on, what people would want. So if if a number of people showed interest in having, weekly kind of support sessions and just kind of drop in sort of thing, then I think that's, yeah, absolutely. You just, basically, I just send out a link, and then with the time and that, and then you just click on it, and you're in.
Okay. So if we wanted to have a neuropathy support one, once a week or once a month or whatever, we could look at doing something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I just think it's such a fantastic idea and a service that just isn't available right now. I remember a couple of years ago going through a really rough time when I got quite ill and with no benefits, there's no one to talk to.
Yeah.
And there was nowhere to go, and I just love what you're doing. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Yeah, who runs the class? Yourself or?
Yeah, just me, myself, and I.
27 years of education in this area, she's well equipped to do it.
But if you wanted to do the financial part, that would be Aisha, because she's looked more into that than I have. So we've kind of divided have our own kind of areas, but she's willing to do pretty much anything in the pitch in and stuff, but she's probably more knowledgeable about the programs and such.
Can you sort of describe what a session might look like? Like if you had 4 people who didn't know each other, I assume you'd sort of start with an introduction, for example, and then...
If it was a session like that, then I would run it probably like how Leaps, I've seen Leaps run it. And basically you introduce yourself and say how you're doing. Just a little kind of blurb, and then if there's anything anyone wants to talk about specifically.
Mm-hmm.
And then I just find it just kind of flows from there. I don't really have any specific structure in mind. It's really based on what the person or people need, and what so it's kind of a support group-ish in that respect. It's not, I wouldn't call it like a class or anything, because I think it's not just me teaching something, it's sharing ideas, and it's just not me sharing ideas. I mean, we all share ideas, right? So I guess I'd just be kind of leading and prodding, getting people to
And I think it helps develop sharing suggestions with each other, like something you might not have thought of, even with your own practitioner or therapist or whoever. Something like a small meeting, even one-on-one helps a lot, eh?
Yeah.
Never mind a big meeting like this, but even 1 to 4 people, eh? I think just, you're sharing yourself. Like sometimes people get tired of hearing what's going on in your life, and so it's kind of nice to be able to feel open, I would think,
Yeah, I think whatever people feel comfortable sharing, they're welcome to share. And if you just want to sit and just listen, I think that's fine too.
Can we do, I'm just curious if we could do just a little poll of the room, just by putting our hands up, and see how many people in the room might actually be interested in trying something like this.
Oh.
Awesome, that's great.
Okay, well, with that, thank you for coming to share with us this